Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents. In today's episode, Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class, don't blame me when they get hurt. You want my dog? I think my mom is jealous. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class, don't blame me when they get hurt. Hi. First time posting here, but boy do I have some stories, also sorry for the long post, I tend to give too many details. I work as an instructor teaching parkour and free running basics to small kids, ages 2 to 6, and most of my classes are in private institutions like schools or specialized gyms. Now I say basics, but it really is more bodily control and perception than bona fide parkour since they're really young. I separate kids based on age and skill into different classes which challenge them accordingly, having the older kids dip their toes into actual parkour and free running skills. Now onto the story. I had this mother, henceforth EM, of two kids, EK1 and EK2, ages 2 and 3 respectively, come for a test class to see if the kids are interested. The kids enjoy the class since I try to make them both challenging and fun by playing games where they have to traverse obstacle courses, and I try to set up scenarios for them to use their imagination, such as the pirate ship is sinking. We have to jump onto the lifeboats, etc. The administration later lets me know they enrolled and all is well. Now, something you have to know about my classes is that even though they are taught in a special, order-made room and I make sure most surfaces are padded and am super paranoid about accidents, so I do my best to keep a safe environment, sometimes kids can take a fall, especially if they aren't following instructions or throw tantrums. This was the case with EK1 and 2 since they were always refusing to listen instructions and threw tantrums when I tried to explain why they couldn't just run off to play in the room as if it was just a playground, which it absolutely isn't. After a couple of weeks of this, EM comes into my classroom to tell me, not ask mind you, that her kids are ready for the advanced class, which is kids aged 5 to 6, because they have grown bored of the kiddie class since they are so much better than the other kids, they are not. I politely let her know that although they are indeed pretty active kids, they first have to become responsible of their actions since they tend to push kids around and not listen to instructions, and therefore they are not yet ready since the older kids class is way tougher and I can't just follow two kids around to take care of them and neglect the rest of the class since there could be an accident. Now these are not in any way big groups, I only take groups of 5 kids at most since it's all I can handle on my own to make sure every kid is as safe as possible, but having to take care of underage kids and leaving other 3 kids unattended is a big no-no in my book. Anyway, EM doesn't seem to take my words kindly but accepts my decision, or so I thought. Next week I come in to have the receptionist tell me EM had basically thrown a tantrum to have her kids go into the advanced class anyway despite my warnings, and asks me if I can just let it slide this time. Obviously, I'm not okay with this as it endangers not only EKs but other kids as well, but I can see her storming into my classroom again, angrier this time if I say no, so I ask the front desk to have her sign an additional waiver to the one she already had to sign when enrolling the kids. The day comes when I have to teach the advanced class and in come marching with a smug grin none other than EM and EKs, I welcome them and start my class, which as I said is way more demanding and has some actual parkour techniques sprinkled in. It would be unfair to the age-appropriate kids to downplay the class just because these entitled kids enrolled, so I don't, however I keep a close eye on them to avoid any issues. That day, the kids had to clear a small gap jump and latch onto an edge wall and shimmy along while hanging, picture hanging movement in the Assassin's Creed series, everything but the floor is padded of course, however it is a substantial fall for kids that age, about 1.5 meters. As I'm helping one of the older kids shimmy along, I see the next in line to make the jump is the elder of the entitled siblings and I ask her to wait for me so that I can spot her jump in case her hands slip or she doesn't clear the gap. She starts throwing a tantrum about how she's a big girl now and she can do it on her own, to which I respond to just let me be there to make sure she doesn't get hurt. I run back to her after helping the other kid reach the ground and help her reach the wall since she couldn't clear the gap, to which she goes absolutely mad and storms out of the classroom. 5 minutes later she comes back in with EM demanding that I let her jump on her own. I once again explain why that is a bad idea and we run the circuit once again. Again, I am helping the kid lapping before her and ask her to wait for me, but instead of listening she jumps into the wall, fails to clear the gap, crashes into the wall face first and then plops into the ground knocking the wind out of her. I rush to check if she's unhurt, which thankfully she is aside from the fall, and she starts swiping at me and once she recovers starts bawling her eyes out and storms out of the classroom again. Once again I'm faced with the EM demanding to know why I let her daughter get hurt during my class and starts accusing me of being negligent and incompetent and that she'll take measures against the school and me. I tell her I understand she's upset, but I asked the kid to stay still and wait for me, but she refused to listen, and to remember that I warned her they were not yet ready for this class as they did not follow instructions which were meant to keep them safe. EM keeps going about how I can expect to be fired soon and the usual entitled parent monologue and then leaves. I tell the front desk what just happened and ask them to check the cameras in my classroom so that they can have proof in case she really tries something legally, and reminded them she had signed a second waiver. Thankfully she never did and she never came back even though she paid the whole month in advance. I have some more stories of this kind since extracurricular activities tend to have these kind of incidents and draw in entitled people, so let me know if you want to hear more and I'll try to post some of mine and co-workers' stories in here. I keep thinking these entitled idiots are rehearsing for their competing for the Darwin Awards. Best precaution in this situation is to install multiple audio recording cameras so that all instances of disobedience and temper tantrum is recorded. Then use these as examples of why it isn't safe for such a physically taxing class. Bake this into your contracts as grounds for permanent dismissal alongside that if the parents choose to enroll their kids in a higher class than recommended then you as an instructor and your organization is not liable for injuries clause. Insert an additional can call CPS on parents for endangering kids by not following safety regulations clause and ask the parents/legal guardians to sign it before beginning the class. That should sufficiently cover your ass as well as screw the unruly kids and parents a real nice one. Add a no refund policy and you are in the best place possible, legally speaking. Although do take it with a pinch of salt as I put in the obligatory, not a lawyer here and suggest that you consult an actual lawyer about this. So she was there in the room watching her kid not making the jump and then demanded you to let her do it herself. Delusional much? It's like these idiots want their kids to get hurt. Maybe they are punishing the kids for ruining their lives and goals. You want my dog? Well, I think it's fairly safe to assume I've lost a couple friends over this, but it wasn't me what did it. This weekend a friend of mine asked me to keep an eye on her two kids while she and her hubby went away for the weekend for some couple time. Her mother was initially going to watch the kids but fell through on short notice. She called me at 3 p.m. on Friday to come over in 3 hours, and my friend knew I probably wasn't doing anything. Which was both hurtful and accurate. I said sure. She's got two kids, a girl who is 8 and a boy who is 5. They're good kids for the most part. The boy has a little bit of a snitching problem and the girl has a sharing problem, but it's 2 days. So I show up Friday after work while my friend gives me the rundown and her husband tells the kids he will beat them with their sibling if they're bad. The kids were unimpressed. The parents leave and it's just me and the kids in the house, and it's immediate pandemonium. The brother snitches on his sister for taking an extra cookie. The sister cries to me that her brother touched her switch, and I make the executive decision that they've got too much energy and if they're tuckered out they'll hopefully chill. So I ask the kids to track down bathing suits because we're going to my gym which has a pool and a guest policy. I did let mom know what we were up to before we left, and asked if it was okay if I brought my dog over. He doesn't shed and is house trained. She said that was fine. Operation Pool was a great success, though the locker room got a bit dicey. That's a whole other story. Once everyone was appropriately tired, including me, we made a pit stop on the way back to their house to grab my pooch. He's extremely well behaved and loves kids, and both kids were immediately all about the Dexter, and the Dexter was all about the kids. Ground rules, no pulling on his fur, and he goes where he wants. Kids kinda struggle with the notion that a dog is not a toy. I obviously kept him out of places where he wasn't supposed to go, but I'm a grown-up. Allegedly. Miraculously, after the swim and chasing the dog around the house left the kids too pooped to pop, and both fell asleep watching a Disney film on the TV. After the movie, I woke the kids up to trot off to bed and didn't make them brush their teeth. For the record, the son did indeed yeet me under a bus when mommy called in the morning. I told the kiddos that if they left their doors open, Dexter might sneak in and give them cuddles. I increased the likelihood of this by sleeping on the couch and not leaving him a spot. He expressed his displeasure with me by flouncing off and going into the boys' room to sleep. Great success. Saturday we went for a hike in the morning, had a nap, and then played ball with the dog and generally had a pretty chill day. Diffused the sharing issue by explaining to the girl that the pup has feelings and wants just like any person, and she can't control in that way. She appeared thoughtful. And then immediately started yelling at her brother for hogging the dog again. At least she wasn't mad at the dog. I successfully heated up the casserole mom had left me for dinner following her carefully laid out instructions, admonished the kids to not give him people food, and was soundly ignored. I did draw the line at a couple morsels from each kid, and put my foot down. More than that and he's gonna get the runs, and nobody wants that. That night I made sure Sis got a turn by again hogging the couch and also closing the boys' door, since he got a turn already. The girl was smug. The boy made me call his mom. Mom wasn't happy that my dog was in her kids' beds. I reminded her that he doesn't shed and can't smell worse than the kids, and her daughter might burn the house down with us inside if she doesn't get a turn. Mom accepted defeat. Saturday night was again relatively peaceful, though toothbrushing did happen. Early Sunday morning I got woken up by having my dog step on my testicles, which is a thing he's really good at, and he was mad at me for not leaving any room. I made room. Apparently, the girl tried to do something he didn't like and he noped out of there. She wasn't happy about that, but was appeased by my pain enough to go back to bed. This morning was relatively chill, some more playing with the dog and some team tug of war, and Mom and Dad got back around lunchtime and thanked me for keeping their kids in one piece. The kids said bye to the pup and there were tears, and I loaded up myself and my dog and went back home to enjoy the relative peace and quiet. Yeah, I wish it ended there. Maybe an hour after we got home I get a phone call from a very frazzled sounding mom with kids crying in the background. She says they need my dog now. I'm sorry, what? You don't need a dog, you need my dog? Like, I don't need to come back and visit soon? You just want him? Well, the kids got so attached and they won't stop crying about missing the dog, and her husband don't have time for 2 kids and a puppy and more guilt-inducing word vomit that was having precisely zero effect on me. Abso-fluffing-lutely not. Click. Still getting texts about being reasonable and you have time to train a new dog. 48 hours of free babysitting isn't enough? You want my dog too? Not in this lifetime. Updates/clarification: the parents offered to pay me for my time over the weekend, but the rate for 2 full days of childcare was kind of a lot and they don't have a lot of disposable income. It was an emergency and I had nothing better to do with my time. Told them not to sweat it. My pup is chipped and is still sleeping off his big weekend, but he's going nowhere solo and I do have cameras up. I also texted my friend's husband asking him WTF happened and why does his wife want my dog this morning. He replied back with a lot of genuinely hoping sanity breaks out and we can move past this, but ain't nobody is pup napping my dog. Sad update: I can't really say much without identifying the people involved, but there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than I was made aware of. My friend is currently undergoing treatment for things I can't really describe without risking doxing her, and she's got enough on her plate as things stand. She really did blow a fuse though, and is now aware that what she was asking wasn't rational and has apologized. I really don't understand some people. On the plus side, adorable dog tax. That's the sweater of shame. When he's being extra annoying I put it on him. Works like a charm. Suddenly he's so focused on getting out of the accursed garment that he doesn't bother me anymore and just rubs on furniture. Comes off after a half hour or so. You are way too nice. Thank heavens you are not idiot enough to go along with their nonsense. Hugs to your pup. Pay the dog tax, please. Be reasonable. What part of her argument seems reasonable? You are much more patient than me. I would have tore her a new one. I don't like getting that mad if I can possibly avoid it. Yeah, sure, I'd vent my displeasure, but when I get mad I stay mad for a while. Easier to just roll my eyes and let it go. She's not being rational, and I'm hoping she realizes that sooner rather than later. Hating someone is exhausting. I've never understood people who just see pets as tradable property. Also, those guys are definitely going to try to steal your dog at some point. I hope not. We'll keep an eye out though. He's not really big on being away from his people unless he's sun-worshipping, and I'm usually right there. Plus he barks his fuzzy little brains out when he sees friends approaching. I'd know. Tell her after some thought you'll trade the dog for one child. She picks which one. That's what she's essentially asking of you. LOL. No. And the kids sound like brats. No disrespect to them intended, but it sounds like neither of them know how to actually parent their kids. Beat you if your sibling is bad. Who says that? Bring us back your animal, because the kids are upset that he is gone and we are too frazzled. Someone hasn't seen what happened to Veruca Salt. I think my mom is jealous. This has been going on for a while. I'm not 100% sure if she is jealous or if this is normal. My mom would constantly make comments about my body and looks. Your butt is flat, your chest is small, etc. If I'm taking a picture of me, she just has to jump in saying you're still ugly and laughs it off. I just ignore her because it's tiring hearing this every day. In some cases my mother would randomly point out my chest and say, Lord, why does my child have more chest than me, make it stop. And then laugh it off. It's a never-ending cycle. It's even more annoying when she mentions my body out of nowhere. I would be laying down and she would say, you know, your butt is getting smaller, or you're really ugly. And when I don't reply, she just keeps repeating it. And it's not just me, she does it to my brother too. Whenever they're FaceTime, my mom will have to point out how fat he is or how he has more chest than her. To be honest, she does this to anybody. If someone brings up a family member, she would always have something bad to say about them or put them down. I'm honestly used to it, but now it's tiring. She has to mention my body every single day. There isn't one day without her leaving her comments about me alone. Next time she says that you're really ugly, ask her if she has looked in the mirror lately. If that doesn't work, tell her I may be ugly on the outside, but your ugly goes all the way to the bone. Or be very confused and mention that everyone says I could be your twin. I am familiar with this type of behavior. My mother is the same way. I have stopped speaking to her completely since February and I have never felt better. It is an insecurity on her part, but rather than get help, they get joy in reactions and then victimize themselves when you call them out for it. I bet she often gaslights you into thinking you are wrong when you correct her. Example, you call her out for the silliness and she says, you can't take a joke? Geez, you are so sensitive. So what if someone calls you ugly? You must think you're ugly to react like that. You call people ugly too. Ring any bells? It is incredibly annoying. You literally were spot on with everything on her gaslighting. But I'm sorry you had to deal with that, but I'm glad you cut her off. My mom tried that on me once. My reply to the "you're ugly" comment was simply, thanks, I got it from you. It was the end of it. If she persists, just find other ways to blame her for your looks, they can't stand it. Next time she says you're ugly, smile and say, I know I look just like you 50 years ago. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.